to UFC 237 podcast. You got Ryan and Sean Devaney.
What up?
We are live. Nope, actually, Bruce Buffer will sue me if I finish that, so I'm done. But welcome back. We got exciting card coming up in Brazil this Saturday on ESPN Plus pay-per-view, however you want to determine and say that, because it's ridiculous. However, they're doing the new formatting, but
Which cost them a lot of money last month.
yes, it does. Sean, thank you for segueing into our opening announcements before we get into the fights and start talking about getting into what's going on around UFC 237. We're going to talk about what's going around in the UFC in general. So just some quick announcements. We had some great fights pop up recently. Romero versus Costa was announced, I believe, earlier this week. So
I think last night.
Last night, yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, that is fresh.
It's only taken them 4 times. Doubt it makes it to the card.
The all-body competition there. But
Don't let your wives, your girlfriends watch.
So that one should be a fun one. It's going to be in August, supposedly at UFC 241, which is headlined by Daniel Cormier and Stipe.
The rematch at heavyweight.
The most deserved rematch at heavyweight for now.
Yeah, thank God no Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, thank goodness.
He gone.
But that is one of the first repercussions of this new formatting on ESPN Plus. One of the other announcements one of the other big things that is talked about right now was UFC 236, Holloway versus Poirier. That was a fantastic card. A lot of people were excited about that. Didn't even have 100,000 pay-per-view buys.
Yeah, I think a lot of people streamed that because they couldn't figure out how to work the ESPN model. You had to go on the website to pre-order, then you had to go back to your app to watch it. And I think for a lot of people who even got to the website, it wasn't working for them still.
Right.
They tried to put in their credit card information, whatever. It still wasn't working. So
it
drew a lot of people to go watch for free.
Yeah, it's something that Sean and I talked about too. Like, as much as we like them transitioning over to ESPN, the fact that they're doing this model is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, so you have to have ESPN Plus,
$5 a month,
which is $5 a month, and it's only on the apps, right? So like, you can't even get it through some of the formatting, some of the different formats. You have to have the right device to get onto it in the first place, and then not only are you paying $5 a month for the ESPN Plus subscription, then for the pay-per-views you're paying another $60.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. We've talked about it. They need to follow the WWE format. You have your app. You pay for it, even if it's just $20 a month. You pay for it, then you get everything, all live shows. That's some pay-per-views included. Boxing's moving to that with DAZN, and so is Bellator. And it just seems like a fair deal. People are going to take advantage of that. When you get superstars like Canelo Alvarez in boxing signing up for this, the UFC has to follow suit. It's just going to cost them too much.
And what do you know? Like, how's that price, or how does that work with DAZN? I know that
DAZN, they advertise it for a little under $100, I believe. So not even $100 for the year, and you get everything on their app.
All the pay-per-views.
You get Canelo Alvarez fights. I believe it's Gennady Golovkin. You get all the Bellator pay-per-views,
wow.
And any other fights they have. And I don't know if they have any other sports right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's ridiculous because then on top of that too, like, a lot of UFC fans are also paying another $5 for Fight Pass as well. So you're paying $10 a month for subscriptions to watch the UFC, and then on top of that, you're paying for the pay-per-view cards. So,
yeah, they're just driving fans away. And
yeah,
it's going to take them to hurt their bank account for them to realize that change needs to come.
And to prove that point, I pulled up from this website Statista.com. I was looking at the pay-per-view buys or like the average pay-per-view buys per year.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't averaged under 100,000 buys since 2004. Granted, that's looking at a year holistically, so I mean, you're looking, but just thinking about how great that card was, that was Dustin Poirier and Holloway fighting for the lightweight interim strap, and then in the co-main event, which that was a 5-round war, followed by a 5-round war at middleweight for the interim strap between Adesanya and Gastelum. So there is no reason that shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, they were hoping for 200,000.
Yeah,
that's dog shit.
Yeah,
for those 2 fights.
Yeah,
and that's what they were hoping for, because I think they knew with the new model it might get a little iffy, a little sketchy. But they didn't even get half. Or I think they only got half.
Yeah, it was bad. So to that point, man, that wasn't good. But it is what it is. And then moving on, we have Khabib is reporting that he wants to fight 3 times, but so he's not eligible to fight again until September, and then he wants to fight 3 times by
Well, no, I
next
think
April.
he'll be September or eligible in the summer, but he's going through Ramadan, so he won't be competing during that time. And then September is his target date.
Oh, I thought like August or September was he was.
No, that was the plan. Even I think before they gave him a sentence, it was September, or maybe it was right after the sentence, because he was eligible to come back early summer. I think actually they're about the same time as Conor. I think they got the same amount of length.
Did they?
So they're good to go at the beginning of summer. Khabib has Ramadan, so he can't train, or I don't think it affects his diet.
Mm-hmm.
So he won't be fighting during the summer. He said September is his target date.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then there you go. But that's all the fight announcements that we have going around the league. We can kind of jump right into what's going on with the UFC. So UFC 237 in Brazil. So really quick, we'll just cover kind of the early prelims and the prelims. We're going to tell you there's not much that we see from our side.
No, mostly just old classic names. BJ Penn, Clay Guida are facing off. Little Nog's headlining the prelims. Just some classic guys on there. Other than that, not really much. It's mostly Brazilians filling out the rest of the card.
Yeah, they have some South Americans. They have a Peruvian. They have someone from Argentina on this card. Actually, that's on the main event, the main card. But a lot of Brazilians here, a lot of new faces, and some faces that are coming off of losses.
But that doesn't mean that it won't be a good prelims.
Yeah, hey, you never know. Prelims
Sometimes some of the
always-
worst-looking cards end up being fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of these young guys and girls, they don't have nothing to lose.
Yeah, I would say to your point, probably the 2 top headlining fights that at least people are going to be excited from a fan perspective is BJ Penn and Clay Guida.
Mm-hmm.
And then Little Nog fighting Ryan Spann. That should be a great jiu-jitsu match, I would assume. Ryan Spann actually has a ton of submissions under his belt as well. And then if you're a Beth Correa fan, or you're Beth Correa because she's her biggest fan, she's fighting on the main prelim card as well against the Mexican Irene Aldana. So, yeah, I don't know. We're not big
not
Beth
too much.
Correa fans.
No,
so.
no. I don't think anybody really is. Like, to your point, except Besh.
Yeah. So, and usually we go through it. So early prelims is going to be available on Fight Pass. The prelims will be available on ESPN on TV, so that'll be easily accessible. But then the main card, which we're going to get into here in just a minute, is going to be on ESPN Plus, and then through purchase of pay-per-view. Or can you even call it a pay-per-view anymore? Like,
Yeah,
it's a
because you have to pay per the view. So
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. I just didn't know if like the trademark pay-per-view.
it's pay-per-view
was-
through ESPN.
Yeah, there you go. That's a better way of putting it. So we got a pretty good card on here. We're pretty excited. We
got some bangers.
Yeah, got a 5-fight card on here.
The top 4 fights should be good.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I even like the first card on here. So we're gonna go ahead. So Sean and I are trying something a little new to spice things up and keep it concrete. Keep a concrete time frame. We're going to do kind of like rounds where we're just going to do essentially 2 minutes for the first 2 fights, and then we're going to jump it up to 3 minutes for Jose, for the Jose fight and the Silva fight, and then we'll do like we'll cap ourselves at 5 minutes for the main event, just because I think that's fair. So
Championship fight.
yeah, absolutely. So just so you are aware in here too, at the end of the round you'll hear the boxing ring, and then from there we stop and we cut and we go on to the next topic. So again, we're gonna start 2 minutes. We got our first one, Francisco Trinaldo versus Diego Ferreira, and let us roll.
Kick us off.
Yeah, so this one is going to be a nice lightweight title fight, a nice lightweight fight. Really, I mean, Diego's unranked right now, but Francisco's at that number 15 spot. This should be a fun fight. These guys are, in their mid to late 30s, so It's not like these are young guys coming in. I think more
No.
so, this is Francisco Trinaldo's been in the UFC for a long time, so this is more name recognition for the Brazilian.
Name recognition, yeah, and location.
Yeah, but these guys are fun. Trinaldo is a heavy hitter. Diego's got some decent stand-up, but these guys are great jiu-jitsu fighters. Diego, I think, is a third-degree black belt. I can't tell you off the top of my head what Francisco is, but I know he's a big jiu-jitsu guy too, but he's a big, powerful guy as well. He just finished Evan Dunham recently, so that's a nice little thing to have under your belt in his place. But I mean, even going back and looking back at Francisco Trinaldo, I mean, he's beat some good lightweights. He's beat Ross Pearson, he's beat Medeiros, Felder, Miller, and then, as I mentioned, Dunham was a recent one, and I think that was Dunham's retirement fight as well that he beat him in.
Yeah, those are some really good names to have on your list. I mean, lightweight is so deep. Even unranked fighters are absolute killers. So
yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's not like light heavyweight where you have a matchup of unranked, veterans. So you're like, even lightweight, you always want to watch the best square off.
Yeah, absolutely. And this one is going to be one that you could easily turn into a stand-up match, which would favor Francisco just because of his experience and his ability to throw those power shots.
It's like we always say. They always like to kick off the pay-per-view with one of their fun fights, one of their fun, unknown fights.
Worst case scenario, it goes to the ground. This turns into a great jiu-jitsu match with two great jiu-jitsu guys. So that's pretty exciting. And look at that. We just hit the first time. All right,
We're
Sean.
pros at this already.
Absolutely. That was good timing. So, Sean, why don't you give us the Vegas odds on this one before we move on to the next
Vegas
fight?
odds, pretty close fight. Diego Ferreira is the favorite at -165, with Ronaldo a +145, so not really a good betting odds on that one.
Yeah, that one's about as close. And what did you say Trinaldo was?
+145.
+145. Yeah, that's honestly what I kind of would have guessed as well. Not being a big betting man, but absolutely. So, all right, well, let's move on to the next fight. We got my favorite, Thiago Alves.
This is going to be a fun one.
Yeah, versus the new fighter, Loreno Staropoli.
Argentinian?
Yes. So let's start this round. Go. All right, so Thiago Alves, longtime favorite. He's been back and forth recently. Unfortunately, just in his career, he's taken a lot of
ever since his
damage.
title fight with George, he's kind of bounced back and forth. Some wins, some losses against top guys, some no-name guys. He's been kind of I don't want to call him a stepping stone, but he's been fighting the young bloods lately. That's where he is in his career.
He's been a pro since 17. This is something that we've talked about, or I've talked about before, is it seems like guys have like a lifespan in them, once they start fighting. That's why you see some guys can start a little bit later and they go a little bit later in their career, like a Romero, like a Randy Couture going back. But Thiago Alves, I think his body's just worn from it.
Yeah,
but
I remember reading an article not too long ago, maybe a year or two, that they think a lot of MMA fighters hit their prime for 3 to 5 year stretch. That's about average. So, I mean, you figure you hit that when you're younger, not a lot to go from there.
Yeah.
Especially when you become a veteran.
Yeah, but he's fought a ton of guys at welterweight. He used to fight
everybody.
at 185.
Yeah.
I think he even fought at 205 for a while. That goes way back. But he's a great technical striker, and I think that's
He can throw heat.
He can throw heat. He can still knock you
But
out.
so can this kid. This kid's got an 87% finish rate. He's got some subs. He's got some knockouts. He's clearly versatile.
So I think the key for him is going to be keeping up the pressure, but not leaving himself open for the damage. And then on the flip side, Thiago Alves is going to have to slow him down with his nasty leg kicks. He's going to have to be a technical striker.
He's going to have to use some knees and some uppercuts, because I'm sure this kid's going to be looking for some takedowns, even just to mix it up. Maybe if he's not necessarily looking to get him down, he's going to try to get Thiago to be thinking about that.
Yeah, he seems like a high-volume striker, Loreno does, so he's going to have to put the
hittable.
pressure. Yeah, but he's hittable, so that's going to be the pressure that he's going to put on. He has a reach advantage over Thiago, so this one I think will be a fun fight. This is going to be a fire fight.
Thiago's always a fun guy to watch. So.
Absolutely. So, of course, the computer went down on us on Reddit. Right on time.
So the Vegas odds dead even at -110.
Really?
Yep, this is a pick 'em.
Yeah, I think that goes back to just like you said, 110.
Mm-hmm.
Is that plus or minus?
Minus.
Minus 110. That's so weird. I'm still learning the ropes for the odds. I swear. Okay. Yeah, that one should be a fun one. I think that will be a firefight. So, but let's talk about a
This
real
is
fun
this
one.
is the fan favorite fight. This is the one everybody's tuning in for. I think people want this one for 5 rounds.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think it's going to make it past 3 though.
You don't
No.
think it's going to... Well, I mean, yeah, this is only a 3-round fight. So let's get into it. This one's going to be a little bit longer. We're going to go into 3 minutes for this one and the Anderson Silva fight on next. So, Sean, here we go.
Yeah, kicking off, the Brazilian legend, the living legend, Jose Aldo taking on Alexander Volkanovski from Down Under. But yeah, Volkanovski wanted this fight. Aldo wanted this fight, which is interesting because Aldo doesn't call anybody out unless your name's McGregor. But as far as I look at the matchup, Volkanovski to me is just a younger Chad Mendes. Maybe not as good of a wrestler, maybe better striker, but he doesn't have size reach. If you're going to fight Aldo in a striking battle, you better have some size and some reach, as Holloway and McGregor have pointed out.
Mm-hmm.
Because that dude throws heat. You want to talk about throwing some heat? Ask Jeremy Stevens' liver.
Yeah, right.
I think he left it in Calgary or whatever they fought at.
Yeah, so just to your point, too, we have the number 1 contender at featherweight. Jose's number 1 right now to Volkanovski's
This is a title eliminator
number
for
4.
Volkanovski. This is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. This is actually a fight that I'm very happy to see because this is going to be a fantastic matchup. I like Vol. Obviously we love Jose, longtime featherweight fans of his, but it feels like a weird place. Jose's going out.
Not much for him to win.
No, he's essentially going out. I mean, he has this fight, and then he has one more before the end of the year that he says he wants to fight one more time in Brazil. Whereas Volkanovski's on the up and up, like he's coming up to be a contender. Yeah. So it kind of stinks to see this matchup because I mean Jose, like he did to Medeiros, he can easily knock Volkanovski off and throw him off that path to another featherweight contender. So I really like. So ideally for the long term, I don't like the matchup, but for the here and now, I think it's going to be a ton of fun. To your point, though, I think Jose is going to like outstrike him. It's going to be more whether or not Volkanovski can slow him down.
If he can survive the onslaught that's coming in that first round, because I'm sure Aldo's going to be picking some shots early. If Volkanovski can survive that, then he definitely has a chance because everybody knows Aldo tires out.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it in both Holloway fights. Aldo was putting on a striking clinic in the first 2 rounds, and then the second he burns out because he cuts so much weight. And I
think he's just so explosive.
Yeah. And he looks cut for this one. There has been some pictures popping up lately.
He's looked good in his last few weigh-ins.
Yeah.
I think the time he fought McGregor, he looked a little soft, and I think people were wondering, is this because of the IVs? Is he off some shit?
Yeah.
You saw it around?
Yeah.
But he's looked great his last few fights.
Yeah, he looks physically great. So Volkanovski is a great, well-rounded fighter. Jose, people forget that he's a fantastic jiu-jitsu fighter too, just because he's so great at his boxing.
He's hard to take down.
Yeah, so you got a high-volume puncher
against a great counter-striker.
Against a fantastic counter-striker, a fantastic boxer. So this is going to be a fun one. I think one of the other keys for Jose Aldo's victory here is going to be leg kicks as well.
Yes, I was going to say... No, we haven't seen the classic Aldo leg kicks in a long time. It's been a while since he's just unleashed some nasty leg kicks.
3 minutes. I feel like we could have went on with that one forever, but that one will be a fun one. Can't wait. This is one of the biggest fights that Sean and I are looking forward to on this card.
So close odds on this one too. Aldo obviously the favorite, minus 130, and Volkanovski coming in at a plus 110. So
wow.
Vegas giving some love to Alexander Volkanovski going on the road.
Yeah.
Hostile environment, man, to go into.
Yeah, into Brazil to fight the King of Rio.
Yeah.
Nonetheless. So, yeah, absolutely. That
fight
one's
Rio's
tough.
child.
Man, that one is going to be a fun one. So, all right, well, let's move on to the co-main event. Jared Cannonier versus Anderson Silva. Jared is the number 10th ranked in middleweight right now to Anderson Silva's number 14. Silva, obviously, if you follow him, you know that he's had an up and down past like 4 or 5 years. He's only, I think, put together 2 wins since 2015, if I remember correctly. So this one's a tough one, but let's kind of jump into this. So we're going to put 3 minutes on the board and go.
Yeah, so talk about a living legend, Aldo. There is none bigger other than Anderson Silva. Coming home, he wanted to fight in Brazil. Looks like they just kind of scraped together whoever they could get in Jared Cannonier. Pretty good matchup for Silva. Cannonier's not too explosive. He's not that fast. not that technical. It's a pretty good matchup for Anderson because he's not a wrestler either.
Yeah. Cannonier's a 35, so he's a little bit older too. He fought a lot at heavyweight, and then he fought light heavyweight where he did not have a lot of success. I think he was finished by Reyes before he got sent down to middleweight to try again there. He's only 5'11". Mm-hmm. He has very stiff striking. This is going to be a tough matchup for him. Honestly, I think that he was set up for Anderson. I think this was set up for Anderson to win.
Yeah, because, I mean, you don't know when Anderson's going to be wrapping it up here.
Yeah.
You know it's coming soon. And I'm sure he only wants to fight in Brazil, so this could be it for him, and this could be a fight that they just hand it to him and like, hey, go knock this guy the fuck out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Call it a career.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jared doesn't have much in front of him at middleweight. Just being, I mean, I guess he's in the top 10, but, the top of the weight division's killers, and I don't see him getting by any of them. Granted, he beat David Branch, but if you watch that fight,
Branch hasn't been that impressive since he's joined the UFC again.
Yeah, he's had a tough go at it since he's come back into the UFC, and even still, I think Cannonier was losing that fight up until the round where he ended up catching him and knocking him out or getting a TKO.
It's just nice to see Anderson get a favorable matchup because ever since he's lost to Weidman, he just hasn't seemed to really have that favorable of a matchup. Maybe the Bisping fight, but he's fought a lot of wrestlers or bigger strikers that are like an Adesanya that is just as technical as him and just as fucking lethal from the outside
and like 15 years younger.
yeah, that's true.
Absolutely. So. This one should be a fun one just if you're an Anderson Silva fan because it doesn't matter who the hell he's fighting, right?
He's going to go in and have fun.
Yeah.
At this point in his career, he's just looking to have fun. You're not going to see the Damian Maia or Talathalades type fights where he's not going to be willing to commit if somebody else is, and he's going to kind of get in there.
Yeah, and the thing, too, is I don't see him holding back. Unfortunately, in the past, you see him hold back because he doesn't like fighting other Brazilians for whatever reason. That's a whole other thing. But I don't see him holding back in this one if he sees the opportunity. It's going to be a slow start as an Anderson Silva fight always is. He's going to feel him out. But I think he's going to get going pretty quick just because Jared doesn't offer a lot other than that one power punch, which I don't see him landing. He's shorter.
Even if he does, Anderson's still got a great chin.
Yeah, he still does. So to that point, I don't see that happening. This is a favorable matchup, and I like to see Anderson.
Yeah, so Anderson's actually the underdog. According to Vegas in this one, he is a plus 110 to Cannonier's minus 130.
That's what the heck is going on?
Sound guy's fucking up. Right.
What the hell? I don't even know how I did that. My bad. That was our jump-in music there, getting a little rowdy on us. That's crazy that he is the underdog in this one. I mean, granted, he's had a up and down past few years, but I just don't see what Cannonier offers that
I mean, I don't know how much Vegas pays attention. I think they're just looking at the past record, kind of the downward spiral. I don't want to say downward spiral that he's on, but hasn't won a lot. Hasn't looked overly impressive. He looked damn good in his last fight for his age, so
yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, again, I mean, he's only won 2 fights since 2015, but Cannonier, Jesus Christ. Cannonier's only won, I think, 2 fights in the last couple of years as well, because he went on a 3-fight losing streak at light heavyweight. Actually, or it was 2. No, so sorry. He lost 3 of 4 at light heavyweight before he moved down to middleweight, so... But hey, you know what? Odds are there for fun, so hopefully
they're there for betting, so that could be one that you bet on.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, that brings us into the main event
of the evening.
So we got Rose Namajunas. Namajunas. Man, I don't know. I don't know why you let me pronounce everybody's name.
I don't know either. I thought you would know.
The thing is, I do. I watch all these fucking people 1,000 times over, but for some reason, I just cannot pronounce their names. Maybe, I don't know. Whatever.
Against Jessica Andrade.
Thank you, Sean. Go ahead and give it a more official announcement.
So, strawweight queen, putting on her 115-pound title, Rose Namajunas is taking on Jessica Andrade in her hometown. Crazy that a champion's going on the road. Doesn't happen often, but she's going down there after a long layoff. I think, she hasn't fought since...
April last year.
So yeah, since the Dolly incident.
The major Dolly incident.
Dealing with some injuries, but Rose is back, ready to take on Andrade, and I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, this one should be interesting. Again, this is kind of unprecedented. I think what you see with Rose is her being thrown into the grinder. She's only somebody that has 12 professional fights total.
Most of them been under the UFC banner, too.
Yeah, most of them been under UFC. You figure she was thrown against JJ twice, and now she's going into enemy territory as the champion to fight Andrade. But that also comes, I think she kind of inflicted that on herself with this long layoff. I mean, to be a champ.
It just happens sometimes. Some people, they get lingering injuries, and as they come back, something else happens. You just don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think the other problem, too, with it was people were getting frustrated because I think it was a mental thing for her because of the dolly incident. And people are like, come on, like, a dolly was thrown at a bus. Like, you didn't even get hurt. You know, that's just a whole that's a whole other thing. But either way, this is going to be a fun matchup, I think, because we have, like, two opposing different styles in this matchup with Andrade and Rose, where Rose is the more calculated fighter, the more calculated striker, great submission artist, whereas Andrade is a brute. She's a brawler. She can knock you out. Fantastic knockout power at 115
Yeah, the way
pounds.
she knocked out Carolina Kowalkiewicz, she looked like a dude knockout. Like, I've never seen a woman whose eyes just roll back from one shot, one power hook, and she was done. Flatlined.
Brutal. Not to mention, the funny thing is, Carolina is her last win, whereas Andrade's last loss is JJ, and then Rose's last loss was Carolina.
Yeah.
Last one was JJ. So it's kind of funny to think that way, and you just don't know, like, where the matchup is, who's going to favor in the matchup. I think whoever's going to win this fight, it's going to be whoever can inflict their game plan.
I think, yeah, you're going to see a lot of grappling from Rose, I think, in this one, especially early on. See if she can get her tired, get her worn down, maybe throw in some kicks, kick her to the arms, the legs, make her grind for 3-4 rounds, and then maybe she takes over after that.
Yeah. See, I see Andrade being so much stronger that that would not be favorable for her. Even though she's not a big-time wrestler, Andrade is good at submissions as well, even though, submissions usually favor the longer, lankier fighter.
But even if you're making, an explosive striker like that work to defend takedowns, even if you're not getting them down, as long as you're making them work and they get tired, it's part of the game plan.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think for me, if the keys to victory for Rose is to keep this in the middle of the cage, don't go against the fence, don't just be a more calculated fight. Move, pick your shots, hit those leg kicks, hit those punches one at a time, because Andrade is going to be hunting you down. Mm-hmm. So cut your angles. Make sure that you're moving smart, you're throwing feints, and you're moving left and right. Andrade is going to come like a brute. She's going to be looking for those shots.
She's a savage.
She's a savage.
Fucking savage. 115 pounds. She's got legit knockout power.
Yeah.
She can shut the lights out.
And Rose has the reach and height advantage. She's 5'5", and I think she has a 3-inch reach advantage to Jessica Andrade's 5'2" stature. So use that length. And then on the flip side, Andrade, I think that she needs to pick her shots. Don't just go all out. Like, throw those heavy shots when you get inside on her, but don't go all out. We see that too much with power punchers like her, is when they think that they're going to close somebody out, they just go all out. They burn their energy. But Andrade has gone to has had 5-round fights quite a bit. So I think there's a lot of experience going into the cage for this matchup.
I'd like to see Andrade work the body heavy at the start. Maybe, just jabs and light punches up top. Really load up on the body shots because, those ribs, that liver, it can go at any moment. It doesn't take much.
Absolutely. I agree with you. So I think that this will be a fun one. Honestly, I don't even know how to call this one.
I'm not really sure either.
I'm really excited about this one. I think since the Amanda Nunes Cyborg fight, this is like the most excited I've been for a women's matchup lately. So super pumped about this one. I think that this is a toss-up. This is going to be whoever can inflict their game plan on the opposing fighter, much like we saw Cowboy last week shut down Ally Aquina's striking.
Yeah, I guess that'd be a good comparison. Cowboy was able to stay on the outside.
Exactly. So I think that that's what we're going to see here, and I'm really excited for this fight.
Yeah, so Vegas giving the hometown girl the favor in this one, minus 120 for Andrade. Rose is a plus 100, so not big odds, but
God, there is no favorable odds on this main card.
Anderson Silva one is a little bit because that's one you can win some money on.
Mm-hmm.
Little Nog's underdog.
Yeah, just there's not a big variation in the numbers here, though.
There never is for MMA because I think there's just so many ways to win.
Maybe it's just this year. I feel like we've seen more we've seen bigger odds, which is crazy. Actually, I guess the BJ one is probably the biggest
huge.
discrepancy.
Yeah, that's BJ Penn's a plus 460 to Clay's minus 620, but that's a very iffy one.
Yeah.
You just don't know what you're going to get from BJ.
You just never know. I know. I hope he hangs up the glove soon. But otherwise, bringing it back to the main event. Very excited. This is a great card. Going to be in Rio. You always have a great crowd down there. Or actually,
it's going to be an electric event. Yeah.
Is it in Rio? Or I know it's in Brazil. I don't know if
it's in Brazil. It's somewhere. They're all.
Brazil is a huge country, so it's somewhere in Brazil. But
it's mostly in Rio for pay-per-views.
But either way, wherever they go in Brazil, those fight fans are fantastic. It's like when they go to Australia or Canada, those fight fans are all fantastic. So should have an electric crowd. Got a ton of Brazilians fighting. A pair of Brazilian legends on here, and maybe
as they always do when they go down there.
Always, and maybe even a legend in the making for the women's 115 division in Andrade if she can show up big in this fight against Rose. And otherwise, everybody enjoy the fights, and we'll see you on Sunday for the recap show.
Enjoy.
Peace.